what's up you guys? It's Blitzky. It is like 11 p.m. My kid's sleeping. I'm home alone right now, so I figured I'd go ahead and make my next video because I've been thinking about it for a couple weeks now. Honestly, I knew whenever I started YouTube and I knew whenever I like really decided to start that this was going to be something I would talk about, and then after recent things that have happened, I feel like I need to talk about it because I'm angry. So let's get into that. Today we're going to talk about Gabbie Hanna. If you don't know who Gabbie Hanna is, she actually came over from Vine to YouTube. She started on Vine in 2015. She was in a lot of Vlog Squad content. She was really good friends with the Vlog Squad. Even when she was in YouTube, when she first started and everything, she was still talking to David Dobrik and she was still in their videos. So when she did move to YouTube, she already had an audience kind of from that, and because her own TikTok or her own Vines, because her own Vines were actually popular, people liked her Vine at the time. So she kind of had a built-in audience, but I will say it is harder for the people who came over from Vine in the first place. It's hard because it's very different. Making like 6-second skits and little songs and things like that is very different from making a YouTube video and making consistent YouTube videos, especially if you're going to put any kind of like effort into them, or if you're going to think about them a lot or do any research and anything like that. Like, it's going to be a lot different. And I think that a lot of the people who came over from Vine when it died kind of failed at that because it was so different, and it's so much easier to have these little 6-second clips that are funny and jarring than it is to have a 15 or 10 minute long video that is also entertaining the entire time, especially when you're used to people just being entertained by your little clips. So let's get on to now. So in recent years, I would say the last 3 years, Gabbie has gotten into a lot of different scandals, and she's been in a lot of different drama for lots of different things with lots of different people. She's just kind of one of those names on YouTube that is associated with drama, as much as she says she doesn't like to be. I don't think anyone believes that anymore. I definitely don't. I don't think there was ever a time that I did. I honestly didn't know about Gabbie, I think, until maybe last year. No, probably would have been 2019. And I don't even remember how I heard about her. I think I saw a meme about her online, and that's kind of all I knew until I got really into like drama channels specifically, which was, 2019, 2020. But anyways, several of her scandals have been completely blown out of proportion, to say the least. But to say the most, completely damaging to other people and to giant communities of people. The most recent is the most frustrating to me, but I would like to talk for a minute about a few of her older ones because I think that they're important as well. Just to show the kind of person that Gabbie is, and just to show, like, she shows patterns of behavior and she knows what she's doing, and I think she likes to pretend that she doesn't, and I don't like people like that. But one of her first big scandals that I had really heard about was I heard about like the Kenza brushes that everyone knows about, where she marketed these brushes that were supposedly $80 in value.
Editing me, I would like to add here that she also had said that the website promised that it would be a little while, like it would go. She said that the website promised it would be like 3 weeks before people got their brushes, but there were also screenshots showing that immediately after people ordered their brushes, they were saying they were going to be there within like a week. So it was a big jump to a lot of people to see her say, oh, well, the website says it'll be 3 weeks, so I don't know why people are upset that they haven't gotten them yet, when there was pretty much clear evidence that they were supposed to have them within a few days. So that's another big point that I wanted to make.
They were doing a sale where they were free. You only had to pay shipping, which was like $6. And she talked about those brushes, you know, and their website and the people that were sponsoring, or the people like Gabbie who were pushing them and who were being sponsored by Kinza and everything. They were making it seem like these were high quality brushes and like you were getting a really good deal. And I mean, now when I see something that cheap, like obviously as a beauty consumer, you know, like there's probably a catch to that. But back then, it was like if your favorite YouTuber or one of your favorite influencers says, hey, this is an $80 value and you can get it for $6, a lot of people are going to go for that. Especially whenever they're saying, like, oh, I've used these brushes are great. And they make it seem like they're really worth the money. And then people just weren't getting the brushes. They were getting them and they were falling apart. Like, people were complaining really hard and people were going really hard on her, and she pretty much just made a video that said manage your expectations and left it at that and pretended that she didn't hype them up to be super valuable high-end brushes. So that's one thing that I think just kind of shows her character a lot. Definitely not her most important scandal, definitely not the most dramatic by far, but one of the most interesting to me, because it was like, oh, that's the kind of person Gabbie is. And people didn't really, I guess, think about it that way until now with hindsight. It's like, oh, of course she would lie and go back on her word because she can't be the victim. Like, she has to be the victim because she has to be the victim.
And for them to be tweeting right now, I'm playing the victim, I am the fucking victim.
Then it goes into more serious stuff. She has, she sided with someone who SA'd her best friend. A few years back, Jessie Smiles. That got released because Gabbie was actually DMing a mutual fan and like sharing personal information about Jessie to make her look bad, because Gabbie had been kind of called out, softcore called out, I guess, for doing a collab with someone who people knew had assaulted Jessie Smiles. And Jessie made a video about it after these screenshots got sent to her of Gabbie literally just like talking major garbage on her to a fan. And it's like, I think anyone would be upset by that, but it kind of also shows you like Gabbie has like a weird relationship with her fans where she'll just like, she has a group chat of her and her fans, and she will text them when things happen and be like, go help me, this person's saying this, and send screenshots. And then all of those few fans that she still has that are this way will go and harass those people. And she very much so knows that she's doing it, and she just plays like, oh, I'm just venting, like I'm not allowed to have emotions, like, or people call me crazy. It's like, no one's calling you crazy, you know, we just don't like it whenever you mass attack other creators who don't deserve it. So also these braids, I know this is a side note, I was not planning on filming this video, and at night I have to do like leave-in conditioner and braids, or my hair looks like awful and frizzy, so just ignore these the entire time. But back to Gabbie. So that was one of the more serious ones. Probably the most serious, I think. The one that we're going to talk about next is more recent, and it's very damaging, but I don't think there's anything quite like hurting someone who you act like is a very good friend of yours, and then publicly saying things to make them look worse than they really are, because Jessie Smiles literally didn't do anything wrong at all in that situation, in my opinion, obviously, but she had the right. That Gabbie was just sharing very personal information and also just straight up lying in some parts, and sharing private messages between Gabbie and Jessie with a fan. Like, I think that's a very valid reason to make a video about somebody and call them out on it, and that's my opinion. And I feel like the general consensus is that she was right in that, and that she had every right to do that. And Gabbie just continues to lash out about everything that people say about her. It's constant. And she wants to, you know, act like she can take criticism so well, but like obviously we're seeing that she can't at all. And so that kind of actually brings us into this next little bit. I am going to kind of tie in David Dobrik stuff. I am kind of going to tie in some things about, you know, bullying and things like that. So just so you have a heads up, I'm not defending anything that people have done wrong to Gabbie. I'm not saying that she's lying about mental health, and I'm not going to question her mental health too much. I'm not a doctor, but as somebody who has mental health issues and someone who has lots of friends and family with mental health issues, I think it's okay for me to speak out whenever she's damaging the mental health community the way that she is. So it's mostly going to be that side of it. I'm not here to diagnose anyone, and I'm not here to say, oh, you don't have this. I'm just telling you why you can't use that as an excuse. So let's get on to that. Now, all of this David Dobrik stuff came up, obviously, and that's been what people have talked about a lot. And there have been videos resurfacing of them saying really awful things to Gabbie, of them, you know, body shaming her and fat shaming her and just awful things, you know, just bullying in general, the kind of things that David thought was funny and the kind of things that just sort of slipped by, because he has these little 4-minute vlogs that, you know, it's happening so fast and there's so much going on that I feel like it was really hard for people to like really latch on to the awful things that they were saying. And there was some really mean, hurtful things they said about Gabbie, and a lot of people have said mean and hurtful things about her. So I am not in any way defending that. I don't believe in bullying people. I don't believe in talking negatively about things that people can't really control. I don't think you should talk about people's looks, period. I don't think that ever plays into a situation. I also never believe that that's criticism, and it's definitely never constructive. I think it just hurts people, and it kind of, not necessarily, I don't think this is what caused the events that have been happening with Gabbie, but I definitely think it made her more defensive, because she didn't stay in the vlog squad for a super long time after she joined YouTube. And people, you know, she says there's no drama there. I don't believe there's drama there. I mean, she said that it was because it just wasn't her lifestyle. She didn't like being recorded all the time. She didn't like that she couldn't hang out with them without being recorded. And I 100% would understand that. I'm not saying that there wasn't beef, but I could understand me not wanting to be in that situation also. Like, I would want to be able to hang out with people I was friends with, you know, for several years without constantly being under a camera and constantly being like the butt of a joke. So I'm not going to speculate on that too much. But I mean, there was obviously issues there. And I think that when some of this stuff started coming up, and this is speculation, this next couple seconds is going to be speculation, just my opinion, because it seems like at the exact same time that stuff started coming up, Gabbie started going back and like rewatching videos, maybe, because she started to go on Twitter and like rant about people judging her poetry and just people criticizing her content in general from several months back. I think it was nearly a year. I want to say it was 7 or 8 months. At the minimum of just like these old videos that she was like bringing up on Twitter again for no reason at all. And it was shortly after this. And since she talks about trauma, and she does, like, I will say, it feels memeable to say that Gabbie Hanna is a psychology major, but she is. And I think that's even worse because of the kinds of things that, you know, have evolved from this whole Twitter rant that she's been going on for the last couple of weeks. So let's get into that. So basically, Gabbie had tweeted, she had started calling out a lot of people for no reason. She started calling out Rachel Oates, who was a YouTuber, and she had several videos on Gabbie, probably more than she needed. But part of being a YouTuber, especially if you're doing commentary or reviews or anything like that, is talking about what's going on and doing what your followers are responding to or your subscribers are responding to the most. So she probably got a lot of views from those videos, and it's obvious that she got a lot of views and a lot of attention, a lot of engagement on those videos. And those videos were definitely pushed out because she got so much engagement. And Gabbie didn't like that. And the issue I have here is that I ended up seeing clips from Rachel Oates' I don't think it was her last video on Gabbie, but the one she did on Gabbie's second book, Dandelion. And she admitted there, like, that Gabbie reached out to her after all of those critical videos that she had made about Gabbie's first poetry book. And she basically said that Gabbie sent her second poetry book, sent Rachel Gabbie's second poetry book, Dandelion, and told her she wanted her to review it because I assume because she felt like she had done better this time. And basically now Gabbie is, you know, a year later, roasting all of Rachel's old videos and just bringing up stuff about her old videos and talking about how awful Rachel is. And literally in certain parts, she's like calling people narcissists and abusers and just like kind of crazy things that do not line up with what is happening in the slightest. And that is where we get into the damaging side of her controversies, which is what we'll probably talk about for the last part of this video. But it went from her talking badly about people criticizing her poetry to her talking badly about Angelica Oles, and her and Angelica kind of going back and forth. Now, Angelica has stated in a video shortly after this happened that she does not want to engage in it, that she believes that Gabbie is having a hard time mentally right now, similar to last year when Gabbie did have a very public mental breakdown, and very much so became a meme during that breakdown. And I understand from Angelica's words that she just doesn't want to add on to that, and she just doesn't think that it's adding anything. There's no conversation to have there. I think Gabbie's just kind of lashing out right now. And I mean, some of that could definitely be trauma. Some of that could definitely be everything coming up from David Dobrik. But then Gabbie starts to talk about her documentary that she's going to do. And then she starts to just go after people for no reason. She is arguing with people in her replies who literally don't have any followers. She is trashing Trisha Paytas again and getting back into drama with her for no reason. And Trisha Paytas goes by they now. I haven't talked about them in a video yet, so I'm still kind of working on that. But if I slip up, they go by they. That is their pronoun, and I'm going to respect that, and I expect everyone who watches me to also respect that. Thank you. So, anyways, Gabbie started up all of this drama back up with Trisha, to the point where Trisha was saying, basically, just leave me alone. I don't want to do this with you. And the entire drama is just that, sorry, my phone died, so if I'm at a different angle or anything, that is why. So, we were talking about Gabbie and Trisha. So, Gabbie and Trisha have a lot of past drama with each other, I would say. And they've both done just stupid things and said bad things about each other. And that sucks. But at this point, Gabbie, I think, is just dragging it on because she's calling people out. And she's kind of disguised it as I'm standing up for myself, when in reality she's just dragging up old things and, you know, intentionally creating new issues for herself and other people. So, Trisha Paytas. Trisha has always talked about how they do not feel like they and Gabbie were ever close friends. And that is 100% okay. Gabbie feels that they were close friends, that they were very close friends. And I think to that, I just have to say, they just have a different opinion on what friendship is. I think that it's that simple. I think that Trisha has actually said in, I believe, TikTok, they have also said in just kind of passing and talking about this drama that they do not have a ton of like people that they consider very close friends. They do not, you know, have tons of people who they consider friends. They are very friendly. They are friendly with lots of people, but they don't consider very many people like bestest friends. And I think that's totally fine, especially for somebody who does have trauma and, you know, mental illnesses and things like that. They have recently been diagnosed with schizophrenia, which definitely has made all of this much worse on them, and I feel for that issue, and I feel that so much for them because I cannot imagine the issues that I have, and my paranoia and my anxiety is nothing compared to that. And I can't imagine having to go through this stuff online with somebody, and also dealing with a new diagnosis like that, and also most likely new therapy, and having to redo a lot of things for this new diagnosis, if you know that's what their path is. And it just kind of sucks. It sucks that Gabbie's doing this at just for no reason, you know, at an awful time for literally no reason. So basically, Gabbie just keeps bringing it up, and she will make these TikToks about Trisha, and she's posted some of their old screenshots that literally do not prove anything at all. So Trisha has come out, and they posted a voice memo that Gabbie sent them because they had done a podcast together. And basically the entire podcast, like the whole episode, was just Gabbie trying to convince Trisha that they had been like best friends, and that she had been invited by Trisha to like a family dinner and for Thanksgiving. And that was like the entire conversation. Was she was like, you invited me to family Thanksgiving dinner and we were best friends. And I can honestly say I do not remember a single time when Trisha and Gabbie were best friends. I cannot think of a picture of them together. I can't think of a video of them really together that wasn't the podcast. Like, I don't think that was a thing, personally. I think Gabbie blows a lot of things up in her head, and I think that Trisha is friendly. Trisha's very nice and, you know, cordial with people who respect them. And I think that's all it was. Like, from the screenshots, the few that Gabbie has posted, like, it does not seem like they were close best friends. It seems like Trisha was just kind of being friendly with somebody who was being friendly to them. And then in the same screenshot where Gabbie is talking about Thanksgiving dinner, where Trish, you know, really invited Gabbie to a dinner with her family for Thanksgiving. The entire thing was just Trish saying she didn't like the specific people that she was around, and Gabbie saying that none of her friends were in town for Thanksgiving, and Trisha just basically saying, oh, haha, like, I should have just stayed home. We could have eaten together. And that was literally the extent of it. And Trisha released a voice memo that Gabbie sent Trisha after the podcast saying, hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Like, I did get some things wrong. I went back and looked in our messages. I blew things up in my head. I blew things up out of proportion. And it was really telling because Gabbie has been on a tirade and just been so adamant that Trisha is just this liar. She has literally gone out of her way and said that Trisha, Angelica, and Rachel are narcissistic abusers, that they're mental abusers, that they called them narcissistic bitches. Like, she has gone out of her way to say hurtful things and try to turn people against them for no reason at all. And it's just gross. It's gross. And that's all there is to it. Because now, so after all of this has unfolded to the point where Trisha almost had to go to get some help one night, and they were posting some serious things because their mental health was so bad because of Gabbie. Their voices from their schizophrenia were so bad that they were considering doing harm to themselves, and that's awful. That's 100% awful. There is zero excuse for that. There's zero excuse for pushing somebody to that. There's zero excuse for, when you know someone has mental health issues, to drag old things up like this, literally just for your gain. And now it has come out that Gabbie posted on her Patreon, where I'm assuming she thought nobody would see it except for her patrons. But it was actually posted, the first place I saw it posted was by Def Noodles. I don't know if he had joined the Patreon and got that himself. But also, Sid is a YouTuber that I follow. I'll try to link those videos if I remember. But Sid is a YouTuber that I have watched recently, and he also had posted something where I'm pretty sure he had joined her Patreon himself and had. So she posted in her Patreon, right? And The title was, I'm concerned for the world. So this post that she had made on Patreon, where she had titled, like, I'm concerned for this world, was literally just saying that she was trolling. That was it. That was the entire thing. She was trolling. This is what I'm very angry about, because Gabbie has talked at length since all of this started about her ADHD. She's literally, I have seen so many clips of her mentioning her ADHD and blaming things on that. She talks about how she has anxiety. Like, she literally blames her mental illness on every single thing that she does. And anytime anybody criticizes her, it's, you're trying to gaslight me, you're a narcissist, or, you know, it's just all of these awful things. Or these things where someone will say, hey, you're acting out of there, you know, like, you are doing way too much right now. And she replies with, like, oh, so I can't have emotions without being crazy. And it's like, you can, but no one's calling you crazy. No one is saying that you shouldn't have an opinion. People are criticizing you for real things. Like, you are actually harming people. If I, for instance, told somebody who knew about this, I have anxiety and, like, panic attack disorders and things like that, they would look at me, and there's a chance that if they didn't know anyone else who had those issues, they could be like, so you're very problematic? Because she has so many young fans who literally don't know the first thing about mental health. So they see this and they think that means it's okay for them to act wild. But also people who hate Gabbie Hanna and people who hate the way she acts see this. And now that's an imprint that even if they don't mean to do it, when they hear ADHD, when they hear people talk about trauma, when they hear people say things like this, they're going to want to avoid people, because that's how it works, because that's how a stigma gets started, because it's so hard as it is to be taken seriously as somebody who has a mental health illness and who has more than one mental health illness at that. It is so hard, because it's hard enough for you if you have issues with reality, and if you have issues telling you the difference between I'm anxious and I'm worried about something that I should actually be worried about. When you have those blurred lines and you have those kind of issues, when someone starts bringing things up like this, it makes you spiral. It can cause such an intense spiral that people can very much so start to have very dark thoughts, even if the thing that was brought up was not necessarily very dark. Like Trisha not being very close friends with Gabbie. That didn't start off as something that was, you know, insane and awful, but it ended up with Trisha, literally, they were having to go get help because they were so distraught and because they were literally having mental issues because of what Gabbie did, directly because Gabbie was attacking them. And that's awful. Nobody deserves that. And I can honestly say that even as somebody who doesn't have the exact same issues as either of these two people, but has issues that very well overlap and does have some of the same issues, it's hard. It is very hard to get out of your head. And it's very hard to tell the difference between reality and what's in your head sometimes. And if somebody's telling you, you said this, you did this to me, and you spread this lie, and you did this thing, even if you never did that, it causes your brain to go, well, maybe you did and you're just forgetting it. Maybe you did and you're just crazy. And that's the issue, is that Gabbie does not care. She doesn't care. She wants to talk about how everyone should accommodate her. Everyone should care about her mental health. Everyone should care about how she feels. Everyone should care about her mental state. But she doesn't give a shit about anybody else's. Because if she was such good friends with Trisha, she would know that Trisha has had mental health issues that involve things such as self-harm, addiction, having to rely heavily on those types of bad coping mechanisms for a very long time. And she would also know that that Trisha has come a really long way in the last year with all of those things, and that she is doing so much damage to that progress just by bringing up old things. Like, Gabbie is genuinely just damaging them so much by just bringing up things that don't need to be brought up. And it's so frustrating, and I really, like, I can't stop thinking about it, and I might actually end up recording this video again just because this is kind of all over the place. But it's just frustrating, because I know that if a past friend brought something up like this to me, and especially after several years, it would be hard for me to decide if I actually did those things or not, because I have trauma and because I have issues, I don't remember things like that. Also, my memory could 100% be a fairy tale land that is not how it went down, because my mental illness prevents me from seeing things that way. When Gabbie has all these screenshots and she talks about, oh, I have all this proof, but she refuses to show it other than one screenshot that doesn't prove anything at all in her favor, it's just frustrating, because she's just making everyone who has mental health issues, and especially the people who have the same ones that she parades around, it makes those people look very bad. It makes those people look like they're untrustworthy and unstable, and that's just not fair, because Trisha has come a very long way. And regardless of what you think about them, regardless if you love Trisha or hate them, they have come a long way. And I definitely have been in, like, I've definitely had like kind of a love-hate relationship with them, because they've done a lot of really messed up things that I will never ever defend. But at the same time, I know that in the last year they have gotten therapy, and they have gotten themselves out of a lot of really bad friendships and drama. They've dropped a lot of people who are very toxic and very harmful to them and other people, and they've come out forward about a lot of things and brought a lot of things that were very important about those people to the light. And while, yes, they have done a lot of awful things, I also think that it's okay for people to grow, and I think that Trish has just given up on the trolling. I mean, I'm sure it still happens sometimes, but I think for the most part, they just want to have a life, and I think they just want to be a happy adult. And I think that Gabbie is just stuck in getting attention all the time, no matter what that means for other people, no matter if it's going to hurt someone. She just wants the attention from it. And it's so gross, and it's so disgusting to see somebody genuinely, like, because the issue is Gabbie could use her platform and actually talk about the symptoms of ADHD and anxiety and trauma. Gabbie could use her platform and actually talk about those things, but she doesn't. And it isn't, I don't believe it's that she doesn't have them necessarily. I think she just thinks that that is like a wall that makes it to where no one can criticize her. And that's just not how it works. So for all of the people who are like tweeting, and she's retweeting them and saying like, oh, well, how come when women stand up for themselves and they're labeled as crazy? And it's like, because you're doing too much. It isn't that people are calling you crazy. People are saying that you're just out of it for no reason. It's because you're genuinely just doing it to do it, and you've admitted that now, and you've admitted now that you're trolling, and you have this documentary coming out. So the fact that you're trolling and then you're also going to come out with this documentary on YouTube that's supposed to expose a bunch of people, I guess, that just doesn't look good. And whenever you have Trish literally coming out and showing what you have done to them and just saying, look, I don't care. I had to block Gabbie for my own mental health. I want to be left out of this. It hurts me when I get sent things that are about Gabbie. Then you should know that it's your time to be like, okay, maybe I'm taking this way too far, because that's awful. It doesn't matter who it is. That's awful. So I'm sorry if I was very angry in this video, because I am, because I think that she's doing the mental health community a complete injustice. Gabbie Hanna does not represent any mental health. I think all that Gabbie's psychology major thing is doing, her degree is doing right now, is just justifying her awful behavior and making it easier for her to manipulate people, and I'm not okay with that. But yeah, if you guys see anything else online about her, there's a very good chance that this video will be obsolete in a week. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, share it, get me into the algorithm. Let me know what else you would like me to talk about. There's tons and tons of things that I'm sure I could rant about for a very long time. I try to keep it more relevant, but even things from the past or just specific creators that you'd want to see a deep dive into. I'm starting to really get a feel for what I want to do, and I think talking about creators and talking about the evolutions of just YouTube and of social media and of people having big platforms is kind of my focus right now. That's what I've been really into. And then this Gabbie Hanna stuff, there's just so much to talk about. It's hard to make a video about it and it not be a deep dive. But anyways, thank you guys so much. I am super excited to have you all here, and the love I got on my first video was awesome. So I cannot wait to hear from you guys.